Well, thanks for clicking on the video today. It's Pastor Chris Wilson from St. Andrew Christian Church, and we are most of the way through the month of June, and we've been exploring this entire month a deeper look at the Lord's Prayer that we find in the Gospel of Matthew. And this fourth installment of the series of looking at the Lord's Prayer is around the phrase, how we treat one another. And the passage of Scripture in Matthew that we'll look at is this: and forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors. Now, for those at St. Andrew, when we say the Lord's Prayer, we don't use the words debts and debtors. We typically use sins and those who sin against us, and we use sins language. There are others in other parts of Christianity that don't use debts or sins. They use trespasses and trespassing, and there's lots of ways this has been used in terms of language to capture what Jesus was saying. Debts, sins, trespasses. What it boils down to in the end is how we treat one another. We hear in another place in the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus says, do unto others as I have done unto you. And so how we care for one another matters. When we're having to ask God for forgiveness because of sins or debts or trespasses, or how we think about that, when we're asking for that means somehow we've not done a good job of caring for our neighbor in the right way. And this relationship of how we care for one another, how we treat one another, stretches across all the kind of the elements of kind of circles that we have. We have that immediate circle around us of family and close friends, and we know we don't treat someone well, it really disrupts how we think about those closest relationships to us. Or we think about those at work or that outer ring of friendships in our life, and we think about, have I done someone wrong? Do I need to repair that relationship? What kind of reconciliation needs to take place? And then get outside of that ring, it becomes even more challenging ring of people that think totally different from us, or people we think, I wouldn't ever want to talk to this person. And how we treat one another, if there is someone that we consider that's someone that's totally opposed to the way we think and that we would never relate to that person, then how are we ever going to build a bridge that creates a better humanity with one another? How we treat one another makes a difference. And one of those elements that's included in that relationship building is we know that we're going to make mistakes along the way. Don't just give up. We want the role and the power of forgiveness to play a part in the healing relationships we're trying to create and nurture in this world. And Jesus sees the value of how we care for one another, but also how we go through a process of reconciliation and care for one another, even through difficult times in our life. And so we've looked at acknowledging God, and we've looked at all the different elements of how we understand our daily needs, and we've looked at those things, but now we're kind of digging into some kind of maybe a little harder zone of the idea. Sometimes we think to ourselves, do I really want to forgive this person? And many times we have to recognize that forgiveness has a lot to do with ourselves, maybe even more so than giving forgiveness to someone else. So, difficult topic. It'll be one we broach and talk a little more deeply about this week. So I hope you'll join us on Sunday as we deal with this topic of how we treat one another.